everyone, welcome back to Dakota's Music World. I'm Dakota Gordon, and today I'm joined by legendary guitarist and founding member of Great White, Mark Kendall. For decades, Mark has helped shape the sound of hard rock with Great White through iconic songs like Once Bitten, Twice Shy, Rock Me, Save Your Love, and many more. His bluesy guitar style and songwriting have made him one of the most recognizable players of the 80s rock era, and Great White continues to tour and connect with fans all over the world today. Mark, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we're going to get into all your Great White work, but I want to talk a little bit about your early musical influences first, if that's okay.
Yeah,
I understand that your parents were musicians themselves, right?
correct. Yeah, my dad was a jazz trumpet player, and my mother was a singer. And she used to sing with my dad when he would do shows like in like the intermissions with the piano player. So my mom would go up and sing with the piano player on these short intermission breaks, and they used to jam. My dad had bands, and musicians would come over, and I was like 8 years old, and I remember this bongo player from Cuba. He used to play bongos for me, and I was somehow fascinated by that. And he kind of showed me that there's more to it than just, tapping on drums. Like he showed me this like Latin percussion and all this stuff. So really interesting. And then his sax player used to come over and make hamburgers. And I think I was more fascinated by the way he flipped hamburgers than the way he played. So, when you're a little kid, some guy's throwing hamburgers way up in the air. But yeah, so unlike my friends, they had like the, regular parents who worked day jobs. My parents were musicians, so it was a little different around our house, a lot more music playing, but they did have day jobs to make ends meet. But, on the weekends, they'd be doing shows and stuff like that.
Wow. And outside of your parents as well, what other artists or bands really inspired you to kind of pick up the guitar when you were younger?
Well, when I was young, I grew up just like any other kid, a little brother, parents. I did stuff other kids did. I was in scouts. I played baseball. I did. But there was a band that played across the street, and I used to watch them through this little window on the side of the garage. And one day the bass player was like playing his bass with his teeth. So I went running home. So that was my first inspiration, was just seeing that band play. And I talked my dad in to get me a guitar. And then I just started discovering music from friends. They had records, and I listened to my parents. Well, my mom's records had women singers and stuff, and I used to sing along. And then my dad got me my first three records, which were The Doors, Cream, and Jimi Hendrix. So that was my early influence, but I used to just sing along. I wasn't like really paying attention to the guitar that much. But then when I kept playing over the years, my first influence was Carlos Santana. When I saw him play on this TV show, a big concert called Woodstock. And so he was my first influence, and I started learning Santana songs. But when I was in fourth grade, I played in the fourth grade class with another guitar player. We played 4 songs, and that's the first time I ever played in front of people, So, but as far as guitar influences, it was the music and just songs. And then it became my first guitar player was Carlos Santana. And then I just kind of moved on from there, discovered other guitar players like Johnny Winter and just, many, many others.
Wow, so that's so interesting. Originally, you were more interested in the vocals of the music, or
Yeah. And the songs, I loved song and singing, the way they deliver it. I used to have a babysitter that brought over like Elvis Presley and stuff like that. Now, somehow singing and the way the songs were, how great the songs were, got my full attention at first when I was a kid.
Did you ever think that you were gonna try to be a lead singer? Or did you know that wasn't the path that you were gonna take?
Not necessarily. I was just more fascinated by melody, and I sang in key,
Hmm.
even though I didn't have like a big range or anything, but I could emulate what I was hearing. I remember my mom when I was 6 years old told my dad he sings in key. I think my dad had perfect pitch, and I think I got kind of the DNA. Like I could hear music well
Hmm.
and duplicate what I was hearing, and I wasn't, like I was in key, like I was singing the notes correctly back,
Oh
So
wow.
I think that's from them. I think I got that from, you know, we're kind of a product of our parents. I notice there's a lot of baseball players, pro baseball players. And then they have a son, he becomes even better than they were. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So I think a lot of my music comes from my parents as far as, melody and stuff like my dad. We used to hit piano notes and he could tell us what the notes were from another room.
Oh wow.
So, you know what I mean? So,
Hmm.
I think I got a lot of my pitch from them.
And then after this, moving on into kind of the early days of what would become the foundation for Great White, you and Jack
Yeah.
Russell first started playing together back in the 70s in a band called Highway, I believe. But then during that period, Jack kind of spent some time away, and then you put together what would eventually become Dante Fox before he later rejoined the group. At that point, when he left the band, did you ever think you guys would cross paths again and end up playing together? Or did you kind of just think that was a moment in time of your career and you moved on at that point?
I just moved on because in the newspaper, he got in a lot of trouble. It
Mm-hmm.
said he was going to go to prison for 8 years, and then I didn't know anything else except that. So I started all over again from scratch, and had to get a bass player, drummer, and it was just me, and I was trying to put something together. I got a girl singer who was great, and her dad was in TV and all this stuff, and we just started playing around. We were playing Hollywood and had all original music, and but then his dad got a hold of me and told me that they reduced his sentence a bunch of times to where he might only do like a year in something. So, then it was in the back of my mind that maybe he would come back, but in the meantime, I wasn't going to just stop and wait,
Mm-hmm.
so I was just, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if he was going to get out and go do something else or what his deal was going to be. But when he did get out, he asked for an audition. He said he'd be better than anybody we have. Don't worry about it. And all this stuff. So we auditioned him, and he was just as great as ever. So we said, "You're in." Just don't get any more trouble.
And eventually, you guys changed the name from Dante Fox into Great White after Jack came back. For people who don't know, where did that name Great White actually come from?
Well, what happened was one night we were playing in Hollywood at a place called the Whiskey,
Mm-hmm.
and there was an A&R man from a record company in the crowd that I guess kind of liked what he saw and gave us his card and said, "Come down to the record company the next day." When we went down there, he told us that he thought we had potential and he wanted us to do like an EP, which is 5 songs on a record, and kind of shop it around and try to get us a big record deal. So he said he thought we had potential and we had a couple good songs, but he hated our name. He just flat out could not stand our name. Well, I get Jack used to call me Great White on stage when I would do like solos and stuff, but he never heard that. What happened was he was out in front of the club, already knowing he didn't like our name, and I supposedly drove by in a car and stuck my head out the window. And he was outside waiting for his car. And I stuck my head out the window and screamed something to the crowd that was standing outside in between bands. And the kid next to him pointed to the car and said, "There goes Great White."
Oh, wow.
And for some reason, a light bulb went off in his head, and he goes, "That's their name." I like that name way better than Dante Foss or whatever. So the next day when we met with him, and he told us he didn't like our name, we thought we were going to have to think of a whole new name, from scratch. But he said, "No, I got your name, Great White." And we actually didn't like it at first until Jack and I used to go shark fishing on this boat in Long Beach. And we both kind of thought of it at the same time. Great white, sharks. When we thought of sharks, then we thought it was a great name because, sharks on T-shirts, it could probably kind of be our mascot or whatever. And it really didn't have to dictate to any kind of music we'd have to play. It's not like a name like Slayer or something where you have to play heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just Great White. It doesn't really mean we have to play any kind of certain music. So we kind of like that element besides the shark image, mascot or whatever.
Yeah, it didn't lock you into a style. That's smart, because I think a lot of bands, like you said, kind of do lock themselves into a style that they're gonna have to kind of stick with based off of their name and the fans they get. But then once you guys officially became Great White, like you said, you released an EP in 1983, Out of the Night, and this was released, I think, through your manager pretty much independently. But local radio stations started picking it up, and before long you got signed to EMI, and suddenly you're touring with bands like Kiss, Judas Priest, Whitesnake, these huge names in rock. What was this transition like, going from playing clubs to suddenly be performing in front of massive arena crowds in what seems like almost overnight?
Yeah. Well, our first tour was with Whitesnake in the UK, which is, overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And we were pretty green, because we had just been playing clubs and in people's backyards. I mean, literally charging $1 to get in with kegs of beer. So to go from that to an arena setting was kind of a shock,
Mm-hmm.
and we were nervous about it. And, but what helped us was the band Whitesnake kind of took us under their wing and wanted us to do good instead of being the intimidating rock stars that want to kill us. You know what I mean? They were real good to us, and it made us more comfortable. And then we played 3 months with them. And so by the time we came to Judas Priest in the United States, we had a little bit of seasoning, so we weren't so scared,
Mm-hmm.
We were able to handle it by then, after playing those months with Whitesnake. But when you first jump into an arena setting from clubs, it's a little scary, but you get used to it. And then but when we played England, the crowds were tough. They weren't. We're used to people just telling us how great we are, because where we started, people kind of liked us. But when we went into this foreign territory, they were like folding their arms like, "Impress us, Yanks." You know what I mean? So we were like, "Holy cow, man." But what happened was I'm kind of glad they were like that, because it made us improve, and it made us keep coming back until they accepted us, so it was actually good. They weren't just an easy crowd to bowl over. We had to try to impress them, and that was by working on our show and and improving ourselves.
Yeah, but that's really nice that Whitesnake took you guys kind of under their wings, because I feel like you hear all these horror stories about bands who were so disrespectful to the opening acts because they wanted to be the star of the show. But that's nice that they were down to earth enough to help you guys out there. And I mean, it worked because soon after that, you guys had a big breakthrough with your album Once Bitten. And
Yeah,
then after that, even you released Twice Shy. And that's what had, of course, your iconic hit Once Bitten, Twice Shy, which I don't think a lot
right.
of people know was actually written by Ian Hunter because it's
Yeah,
kind of considered to be your guys' like signature song, I think, even more than his at this point. When you
yeah.
released Once Bitten, was it already the plan to follow it up with the Twice Shy album and include that song on the record, or was that kind of something that just came together?
No, that just came together when we always record all the songs and then decide what to call the record when the album is done because sometimes you name it after a song.
Hmm.
So, but once we thought of, our album was done, we're trying to think of titles. We go once bit and twice shy. That saying, it's a
Hmm.
saying. And somebody had brought that song to our manager because our album was already done. We were finished. But he brought that song to the manager and he really loved the lyrics in the song. The song was never a hit or anything. Had we needed a hit, we would have went, I mean, had we needed a song, we would have went out and found a hit and, tried just made it our own. Because this was a non-hit that nobody knew. And we're doing it because our manager loved the lyrics. It was about being on the road and we were always on the road. And, you know, and it was called Once Bitten, Twice Shy. And we had an album called Once Bitten and we were going to call this one Twice Shy.
Hmm.
So it just fit perfect in that regard. So he brought it to us, the song, and we thought it was okay. We thought we could put our own spin on it and make it, make it good. But we didn't know it was going to be like the big song, like the single or whatever.
Hmm.
But the record company flipped out when they listened to it when we were all in the control room and they were listening down to the album. When that song played, you could tell they were really excited. They were jumping around and, that's it. That's it. That's the one. So it was their decision to make that the big song, and they were right because it really did well.
But you guys didn't realize when you were recording it that was going to be the hit.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, in fact we would have picked something else. We probably wouldn't have picked that song. But yeah, it just hit a nerve out there. I think people related to it because once bitten, twice shy, you can kind of, oh, I'll never do that again. It's one of those types that something you can put a lot of different scenarios to, as far as the saying goes. So I think it hit a nerve, and plus it was catchy, kind of a catchy. It was the funny part of it is it was never a hit when he did it, and he wrote the song. So it's ironic that it became such a big song.
Yeah, and then after you guys released Twice Shy, I mean, it became a massive success, and you were back on arena tours and stadium tours with bands like Bon Jovi, Alice Cooper, Rat, which are just huge names in rock. And looking back now, was there ever a specific moment during that period when it really hit you just how big Great White had become at that point?
Um, not really. There were moments that were exciting. Like I remember when we played the Forum in our hometown because
Hmm.
it's always a dream that we used to have. Jack and I would be in his mom's living room pretending like we were playing the Forum, which is where our local, you know, professional basketball, the Lakers played.
Hmm.
And it's where we used to go watch concerts when we were teenagers. So it's always like a dream to play there. But for it to actually happen was kind of surreal. And when we played there, and my parents were there, and people I went to middle school with, and stuff that people I knew when I was 12 years old and stuff, and we're playing a place like that, it kind of hits you that, you've done well or whatever. So there were moments like that when getting nominated for a Grammy and, the stuff that where you get trophies for it,
Hmm.
which is never a thing for me. was never really about the trophies. I just played guitar because I loved it, and I guess um, if you do good, they give you things that indicate you're doing good. But I'm kind of shy when it comes to all that. But of course, it's nice, when you can share stuff like that with your parents and stuff.
Mhm.
Like, Mom, look what I did. So in that regard, it's fun. Just you know.
No, but that's cool. That's got to be like a homecoming, like an amazing homecoming to be at home playing the place that you were seeing concerts when you were a kid, and now you're the one on that stage playing for other kids that were you basically.
Yeah, because you know I relate back as far as my parents go when they would tell us to turn it down and stuff like that when we were in the garage playing,
Hmm.
and then they're seeing us at the forum, So, to see it grow into what it became, it's really fun, to have all those memories with my mom saying, she used to say, tone it down. She didn't say turn it down. She said tone it down. Like so. It was just funny. She didn't want to say she hated it. She just said, "Can you turn the volume down? Like I'm trying to hear the TV." Yeah.
No,
So,
yeah,
so,
you hear about that happening with a lot of bands, like even the Beatles when Paul McCartney and John Lennon used to practice.
yeah,
John Lennon's aunt used to tell them to keep it down, but you know, then we would have
yeah,
the Beatles. So, um, I think another
sure,
thing that made Great White stand out during the 80s was that you guys had kind of a blues influence that a lot of other bands didn't really
yeah.
have in that time. Was this something you consciously put into your music or brought to the band, or was it kind of just something that come in based off of your influences?
Just off my influences. All the guitar players that I listened to had that type of style.
Hmm.
That wasn't really so technical as much as they played with a lot of passion and feel and stuff. And I just kind of gravitated toward that style of playing, like more of the blues vein. So when you listen to our band, you kind of hear the blues in there, but we have keyboards and everybody else has different influences. So, I mean, my keyboard player is more into the softer side of music. Like he likes Elton John and Billy Joel and stuff like that. And I'm into like, you know, Carlos Santana and Johnny Winter and Alvin Lee and Billy Gibbons and Robin Trower. So like, and even the Beatles and the Stones and, so that's where my part of the band comes from. So when we all play together, it's like you hear a little blues in there, but you're also hearing, it's like when any band plays together, it makes a sound, but people just happen to notice as far as us being launched in there with the 80s, that there was some blues coming out of there from someone, and it was from my end of the band. So, and that just comes from my influences, people that made me want to improve.
Yeah, but I really think that added something to the band that a lot of other bands didn't have at the time. And that's so cool that all you
But
guys kind of had different influences that you were able to bring into the band to kind of have a more unique sound.
sure, yeah, I think any band has a sound when they all play together, and that just comes from who you listen to when you're a kid.
And I just want to talk a little bit about Jack's passing, if that's okay.
Yeah,
Recently with the passing of Jack, I think a lot of fans have been reflecting on just how important he was to the history of Great White, but also the history to hard rock in general. You and
yeah,
Jack shared decades of music together, and you guys made history together and have all these experiences that we've been
yeah,
talking about. And I know you said before that you still viewed him as a brother despite everything life kind of brought to him over the years. When you look back at your journey
yeah.
together, what stands out to you most about the connection that you two shared, both musically and then also personally?
Well, for one thing, we were absolutely connected at the hip. We were best friends. Our parents were close. I loved his mom and dad. I worked in his dad's factory. We took care of her mom. My wife took care of his mother when she was getting older and needed some care. And it was just a family, it's a total family. And I don't think we even we might have gotten an argument or two in our entire lives together, the whole 30 plus years. And what happened was, I'm an alcoholic, but I'm recovering. And Jack had his issues with addiction. And I got sober in 2008, a little more than 17 years ago. And he just struggled with addiction. And that's what got us separated. It had nothing, it wasn't personal. Like, normally when bands separate, it's because they hate each other. But this wasn't that case. And it was just a case where he was falling down, he was injuring himself, and he was physically declining, and having to get all these surgeries and all this stuff, all stemming from drug abuse. And I work with alcoholic addicts on a daily basis, and I worked with him. I've been by his bedsides in hospitals. I've been by his bedsides in rehabs, and I just tried. But one thing I've learned over the years, if the person doesn't totally want it themselves, you can't make them get well. So what we told them was just go get well, get yourself in a position to come back and kick ass like the Jack Russell we know and all that. And what he chose to do was go find a band that would play with him the way he was. And it was easy to find. He's Jack Russell, the band singer. So he decided not to come back, and that's the way it just happened. But it was never personal with me. I've worked with over 200 people one-on-one the past 13 years, and some have a harder time. Some get it easier than others. I have people with 11 years, that have been with me 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then some that have fallen and picked themselves back up. And, so it's just a scale, it's an array. And Jack just, he had a little bit of trouble. It was difficult for him. So I loved him to death. After he passed away, so unfortunate. He was so talented, for one thing. And I did a dedication to him. And thankfully, I was able to go on 80 Trunk, which is a big show.
Mm-hmm.
And we could talk about the great memories we had with him and what a workhorse he was in the studio, and just personal stories, how much fun it was struggling to make it. Believe it or not, my favorite memories are before we got record deals and went on tours and all that. I have so many great memories of before that those are actually closer to me than when we actually, things started going for us. We were so close, I have so many funny memories. We used to pretend like we were doing interviews in his mom's living room with cassette players. And it's just amazing. How long's the band been together, and all this stuff. And, we just pretended everything. Everything was pretending. We pretended like we played the Forum.
Mm-hmm.
Forum, good night, so we came from nothing. We didn't even have a bass player. We didn't have a drummer. We were just writing songs, sitting there with my acoustic, and to go from there and what it turned into is an absolute blessing. And I miss Jack to death. And I'm just gonna, one thing they can't take from us is the memories, and I'm really happy about that I could holds on to all these great, great, great memories of his parents, him. Um, his dad was wonderful. His mother was totally incredible. So, like I said, it was one giant family, and the music actually became secondary to me when he was struggling. It was more about health
Mhm.
than it was about music.
Yeah, no, those are first of all those are some amazing memories. Second of all, that's just amazing the way you've been able to kind of honor him, keeping the band going and everything. One thing that's really
Yeah,
stood out over the past few years, I think, is the addition of Brett Carlisle as the band's lead singer. I know
yeah,
he joined in 2022, I believe, and I think
yeah,
he's brought a really strong energy to the live shows. And earlier
yeah,
this year, fans actually got the chance to see you appear on American Idol, accompanying him,
yeah.
which was a really cool moment, I think, for people to see. How did that whole experience come together? And also, what's it been like having Brett as part of the Great White family these past few years?
Well, for one thing, Brett is an absolute blessing. He's a younger man. Nothing overwhelms him. He's grateful. He's a really grateful person. He loves his position in the band, singing. And as far as the American Idol thing, he watched the show when he was a kid, and he thought it would be fun just to send in a tape,
Hmm.
just for the heck of it. And he didn't know he'd get called out of 230,000 people, right? So when that happened, we were happy for him. We would never hold him back, but it's not like he's looking for anything.
Hmm.
He just thought it'd be fun to send in a tape,
Yeah.
never figuring they'd call him. But when they called, we said, "Hey, man, we'll go down and back you up, and so you can do the audition, and we'll be the backup band." So that's what we did. Michael played piano, and I played the acoustic guitar. And for the audition, we did a Great White song called "House of Broken Love,"
Hmm.
and the judges flipped out. They just loved it. Carrie Underwood and Lionel Richie thought he was great. And he went on to the second round, didn't get through. There's something wrong with the monitors, he said, but he never made a complaint. He never said anything about the monitors. They were going off and on, and then they shut up completely. So he couldn't hear the band when he was singing. And he said it was very difficult. But anyway, so he didn't make it through. But yeah, so that's how that happened. And yeah, we've never hold him back from
Hmm.
anything. But like I said, he wasn't looking for anything. That was just a freak deal that they called. I mean, what are the chances they're going to call you out of 230,000 people? Yeah, and narrow it down to 100 and some. So that was quite. It was actually a great experience for one thing. For us to be on that show, and they interviewed us all day long, and we were there for like 12 hours. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, Brett, what we love about him, besides on some of our new music that we've recorded in the studio just as demos, you know, is he does the songs correctly. He has a
Hmm.
great range, and he sings the songs like people are used to hearing them on the radio all these years.
Hmm.
So we've never had a singer that did that. They'd always be close or we'd settle. We kind of settled on singers after Jack. We never had one that we just go, oh my God, this guy did it perfect. It would just all, but he's the first singer that's absolutely just nailed everything. So in that regard, it's really awesome to have him in the band also. And he's a really good guy to be around. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, you could tell he just brings that strong energy to the band, and he has amazing
Oh
voice, like you
yeah,
said. He sounds great on he sounds great on all the band's songs. And also, I love that fans were able to see not only did you guys support him in trying out for American Idol, but you literally came to the audition and played with him, which I think was just amazing to
yeah,
see. And
yeah.
now you guys have been a band for almost 5 decades, which is kind of crazy.
It's amazing. the longevity of our heroes is usually 7 years, and who'd
Hmm.
ever go to figure would be around this long? But I think it's because we have 13 studio albums. So obviously we enjoy making new music and staying creative. And our fans are so loyal that it just keeps us going. And plus, Jack and I, we never left ourselves anything to fall back on. We never said, okay, well, if this doesn't work out, we'll go do this. We never had a plan B. We were all in. All we want to do is play music. So um, it's just something I love. I mean, obviously, taking breaks is good. Play with your family, do some hobbies or whatever. But every time I get a break for a month or so, I can't wait to go play again. So that's why it continues to roll along,
Hmm.
because I love it so much. And I think the band feels the same way.
And this summer, you guys have some incredible artists lined up to join you guys on your shows. You have Slaughter coming to play with you, White Lion on some dates, Quiet Riot. You even, I think, on a
Yeah.
couple dates, maybe just one date, have Sebastian Bach from Skid Row.
Oh,
That'll
okay.
be really cool. Uh, what are you most excited about for this upcoming tour? Of I think you have about 30 dates coming up.
Well, yeah. All those dates are wonderful. And the thing I like about the way we tour these days, or not really tour, but we do fly dates, is we never know who we're going to play with. It's like we played with so many random bands that we
Oh
never
wow.
toured with and we've never met.
Hmm.
Like bands like REO Speedwagon or
Oh wow.
Kick, or,
Hmm.
these bands, we don't even know the people. We don't know the band members. So we get to meet them. And we've always, even if we don't have the records, we've always had respect for them in some way. So it's so fun to meet these guys and just go, man, I've been listening to you guys, since I was a teenager. This is awesome. Like we played with ZZ Top, and these are bands we didn't tour with back in the day because we'd go on long tours, like with the Scorpions, for instance, or something like that. So these are bands that we run into and we'll do a show or two, but we never played with them in our heyday. So that's so much fun to meet these guys, man. And believe it or not, some of them have some respect for us, which really blows our minds because we don't even feel worthy. And so it's a lot of fun. Even like the bands you mentioned, a few of them we've never toured with.
Hmm.
Uh, so we get to, kind of meet and hang around. And it's fun to hang around these guys these days. The competition isn't so serious,
Hmm.
like it was back in our day, So it's more like we're just enjoying it and glad we're all here and glad the fans are here. So it's more relaxed backstage than say back in the day when we were all out to kill each other.
And also, I just wanted to ask lastly, are there any special things that fans could look forward to coming up? Maybe some celebrations or maybe some new music coming out in the next few years?
Yeah. Well, for one thing, we bring all our energy to the show and we try to bring the fans right in. They're singing along. We have extended jams where they can sing along with us and feel like they're almost part of the band.
Hmm.
So that's always fun because it's a little different every night. So it keeps exciting for us. And they can expect to high energy, to hear all the big songs that they're there to listen to and a few extra surprises, but mostly we're there. We want to impress people. We're not just out there to entertain
Hmm.
you. We want you to walk away feeling like you got your money's worth. You know what I mean? So we save all our energy for the stage.
Hmm. That's amazing. And it's amazing that you guys are doing you guys I think have 30 dates coming up. It's amazing. It's a lot of shows to
Yeah,
be doing. And people could
yeah.
catch you pretty much anywhere in the US in the next few months. So
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna put in the description of the interview where everybody can buy tickets for your upcoming shows and find the concerts near them. And I definitely recommend checking out Great White. They put on an amazing show. And Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. It was really an honor to get to hear your stories, and it was just so great to get to see you. Thank you so much, and I can't wait for your
You
upcoming
too.
shows.
You too. Thanks for having me, and we look forward to seeing all the fans at the show's coming up.